the kids don't even go there for Halloween. I mean, if there's a house that looks like something out of Nightmare Before Christmas, or better, like Uncle Jesse's cabin in Dukes of Hazzard, or maybe even better, like in Deliverance, the no trespassing cabin, something out of a Stephen King book, you think that's pretty good Halloween material. But there's this guy, let's just say there's this guy I know, and he's got this house all shacked up. The only evidence I know that he's in there is that he's got 5 dogs in his garage, and they go crazy when when anybody walks by. I see him peer out of the window blinds, open the curtains, and I can just see an eye, almost like out of an Edgar Allan Poe story, just looking at who's walking by on the street. One time, raccoons got into his trash. I saw a pile of bones. I don't know, maybe he's a hunter. My name is Mark Biernat, and I'm a monetary economist. In this video, I want to talk about protectionism, free trade. I'm an American and I'm a European, so I have a unique perspective, but I've also studied the history of economics, and I have a pretty good idea of what's going on currently in the world, especially with this Liberation Day. I want to open with a quote, and it's by David Ricardo. And, as I mentioned, both Adam Smith and Ricardo were proponents of free trade. Free trade seems like almost a counterintuitive argument because, you protect your own country, then we're all going to get rich. But just the opposite is true. And again, Adam Smith said, it's not about trade balances or surplus because these are counted in dollars and it's a very complex conversation. It's binary. Are you a free trader or not? So Ricardo said, David Ricardo, you can look him up. He talked a lot about the comparative advantage, and then subsequent economists outlined, something called deadweight loss. You can look up deadweight loss and how this affects not only the consumer, but the producer. But Ricardo perhaps said it best. Under a system of perfectly free commerce, each country naturally devotes its capital and labor to such employment that are most beneficial to each. This pursuit of individual advantage is admirably connected to the universal whole of the good. By stimulating industry and rewarding ingenuity and using the most efficiency, the peculiar powers bestowed by nature, it distributes labor most efficiently and most economically while increasing the general mass of production. It diffuses general benefit and binds together one common good tied to interest and the universal society of nations. It makes the world a better place. Not only does it make the world a better place, it distributes the income equally. And there's quite a few academic studies that will back me up on that. Okay? If you go to Google Scholar, and I think the Cato Institute puts out some, and there's a few other journals, but you can just search, the Gini coefficient, income inequality, the effect of free trade on income, and how it does. In a most simplest example, if we have high tariffs, and I see them as high as like 69% on China, but it depends how you slice and dice it. Some people say, it's 40%, 30%. But because there were already existing aggregate, and if you aggregate it, and it will be up to 30% on Europe. Russia has 0.0%. Iran has, I believe, 0 or little to none, but Russia has 0.0, but they're sure as heck going to put a tariff on Ukraine. So what does this free trade have to do with the world geopolitics? And what does this free trade, the squelching of free trade, have to do, like I said, that first shack I was telling you about, let's just say a person I know who just spends all his time protecting his domain. Okay, he's the king of his castle, king of his domain, but has no interactions with people. The point of that metaphor was, people think the dollar, the euro, BRICS, some derivative of BRICS or crypto is the currency of trade. Actually, the currency of trade is trust. And I personally would not trust doing business with that guy. Would you? Now, there's another neighbor, I have a few in Florida a few tomato greenhouses. And one of my neighbors, I trade strawberries. They have a strawberry field. Strawberry fields forever. Okay, it's just the most sweetest natural strawberries, and I give them tomatoes. It's a win-win. So this free trade argument means life is a positive sum game because there's this anti-entropy of life. Life goes against this normal decay in the universe. It's an aberration. And when we interact with other people, then there's a positive sum game. The current administration in Washington thinks it's a negative sum game. And so we must just, like that guy in that, deliverance shack, just pull the blinds down and guard our little territory. Let's see how that leads us. First of all, tariffs are a tax on the poor. The idea is, okay, yes, we're going to shift the tax burden from, the people in the United States, pay off the debt, and shift that to manufacturers that are competing with the U.S. There's a few problems with that. First of all, this will create a tremendous negative wealth effect in asset markets in the U.S. Second of all, it will create it's almost like everybody's going to lose a portion of the retirement savings. You will dampen demand because it's just not a supply thing, it's a demand thing too. If the price of, goods go up 50% in Walmart, who's going to pay? The poor, the middle class? I'm not, a great advocate, a Walmart advocate or anything, or Dollar Tree store advocate. I'm just saying, a lot of our goods that we consume are going to be consumed by the poor and the middle class, will go up in inflation. They have smaller elements of disposable income. Disposable income meaning after you have paid all your obligatory. That will crush demand as prices go up. So we're the general tax revenue overall, and there are some mathematical equations and graphs I could draw, but I don't bore you guys with graphs and equation, will show that there is no way that the U.S. is not going into debt. We are going deeper and deeper and deeper in debt from these tariffs. The economy is going down. The idea of reindustrialize the industry base in the U.S. is not going to happen because think about, Connecticut or Vermont. Are you going to be sending your kids and grandkids to some factory creating widgets? I mean, the guy in office right now in Washington, he thinks it's the 1800s. That's not what we make. We make bricks and widgets, steel widgets and things. We don't make that. Everything is like, almost virtual AI. Any loss in industrial base, most of it comes not from this outsourcing of industry now. It comes from robotics, automation, and now the next wave, AI. It's not going to do anything to bring back the old days of, you want your grandkids working in a factory, Charles Dickens' hard times time. I live in Europe. I mean, it's quite okay for Europe because Europe is not going to have that, even though we'll probably have trade against the U.S., but we'll benefit from the rest of the world in an indirect way. Now, Russia, it's crazy because you say, well, Russia's exempt because the only thing we're really trading is agriculture. But Russia, what about agricultural drones? We can trade those all day long. Can't they be refitted for, military purposes? So I don't think it's a good idea to trade with Russia. And I don't think it's a good idea to have this agricultural exemption in that regard, even though it sounds warm and fuzzy, because agricultural drones can serve as a dual purpose once in the country. And the U.S. has a lot of agricultural drones they want to export. You connect the dots. What's going to happen? So this Liberation Day really means liberation of the rest of the world. We in Europe are going to have a net benefit. You guys won't get IKEA furniture at cheap prices. I think there's a lot of businesses are going to be closing. There's going to be unemployment. Demand is going to be dampened. You're going to have inflation. You're going to have negative GDP growth. You're going to have higher debt in the United States. It's like uncanny valley. Something's off. Why is he doing this? Does he really believe that this will help the U.S. economy? Or is it that it's just a play, a card play, a bluff? And he may, it's all loosey-goosey, and a month from now, he may change his mind depending on the geopolitical stances of people. Or is he just giving a wink and a nod and a distraction a little bit for Russia? This is your sphere of influence. US, this is our sphere of influence. We take Greenland and, Canada, let's say, and Panama, and Russia, you do whatever you want in Europe. He pretty much said that, right? I mean, I have a friend who supports the administration in the United States, and he's saying, oh, we have to do this. I mean, the Chinese are already, he goes, I know, they like to speak very authoritatively. They're already in Greenland mining it. First of all, that's not true, okay? It just isn't. It's just urban legend and, weaving any story you want. Whenever people have these conspiracy-esque type stories, they have this like hidden knowledge that I know something, but you don't. And so it gives them a sense of power. No, it's very clear. Free trade makes you rich. Tariffs make you poor. Free trade will make Europe rich and it will make Americans poorer. I don't have a time machine working right now. I do have a time machine, but it's not working right now. So I can't tell you definitively in the future. But there is no way that a 30% and let's say 50-something% or even 60% aggregate tariff on Europe and Asia, respectively, with all the intricacies of the modern economies, is going to help the U.S. Are you telling me people in Alabama, West Virginia are going to start making microchips? Yeah, maybe they have the capacity to do it. We all add up to 100%. But economics is really a lot more complex than that. And all I can say is, that this Europe is a beautiful place right now. I love America, but it's got to work out its understanding of economics and read some David Ricardo to start with, or at least Adam Smith, or at least F.A. Hayek, Ludwig von Mises, Knut Wicksell, et al. My name is Mark Bernard. I'm a monetary economist. Have a beautiful day. Thank you very much.